I'm Dr. David Friedlander from the Child Mind Institute. Today, I want to talk about self-injury, what it is, why it happens, and how it's treated. The most common form of self-injury is cutting or scratching the skin with anything that can draw blood, razors or even paper clips and pen caps. But people also self-injure by burning themselves, picking at skin and wounds, or hitting themselves. They often start around puberty. Teenagers who self-injure usually aren't trying to kill themselves, even though it may look that way. Instead, they're trying to use the pain of self-harm to alleviate emotional distress. That said, the same distress that drives the self-harm can also lead to a suicide attempt. The behavior is also inherently dangerous because kids who self-injure may hurt themselves more seriously than intended or develop infections or other medical complications. It's hard to understand why anyone would want to intentionally hurt themselves, and even more so, how that injury could feel like a relief as many self-injurers describe it. But for many, the behavior serves as a distraction from some other intense emotional pain. Others report that self-harm is a way to feel anything at all, or describe feeling numb otherwise. It's what clinicians call a maladaptive coping tool. Even though self-injury is harmful and even dangerous, it might bring temporary relief. Unfortunately, that relief makes self-injurious behavior very reinforcing, and kids who self-injure can come to rely on it as a way to deal with their painful feelings. And the longer they practice self-injury, the more reinforcing it becomes. In some cases, self-injury can also be a way of communicating. Young people who struggle to communicate may cut themselves as a way to visually broadcast the need for help, empathy, and concern from parents and other adults. For others, however, self-harm is an intensely private behavior. Some kids are very secretive about the habit, using it a way to cope with distress. The thing most parents wonder when a child or teenager is self-harming is why? Why would a child start hurting themselves on purpose? And what can you do to help? The impulse to self-harm is almost always triggered by a specific event. The most common trigger for cutting is feeling rejected by romantic interest, by close friends, by family, or by a general feeling of being left out or criticized. For kids who are already struggling with depression, cutting can also be copycat behavior inspired by videos and images that show other people cutting. So how can parents tell if a child is self-harming? Some signs to watch for include talking about self-injury, suspicious-looking scars, wounds that don't heal or get worse, cuts on the same place, increased isolation, collecting sharp tools such as shards of glass, safety pins, nail scissors, etc., wearing long-sleeved shirts in warm weather, avoiding social activities, wearing a lot of Band-Aids, or refusing to go into the locker room or change clothes in school. Self-harm is scary, but it can be treated. If you discover that a child has been self-harming, even if they say it was a one-time thing, it is important to get help. It's true that kids might experiment with self-injury, especially if they have friends who are doing it, but it's a serious and dangerous behavior, and you don't want to ignore what might be a real mental health issue. To begin with, a child should be evaluated by an experienced mental health professional to find out what their reasons for self-harm are and what emotional difficulties they're experiencing. Commonly used therapies include dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. In DBT, a psychologist will work to help kids learn how to tolerate uncomfortable feelings, anger, anxiety, and rejection without resorting to cutting. In CBT, a psychologist teaches kids to challenge negative, distressing thoughts, to recognize unhelpful patterns, and train themselves to find healthier ways to cope. Family therapy. If there are things going on at home, fighting, job loss, a death, that could be the source of a child's emotional troubles, family therapy might be a good way to begin treatment. Cutting is often accompanied by other mental health issues like depression or anxiety. If this is the case, a clinician may prescribe medication as well as therapy and work with your family to come up with a treatment plan. The combination of medication and psychotherapy is very successful at treating kids who self-harm. Finally, we recommend that families try to be open and supportive. Self-injury is a behavior that can be very hard for people to empathize with. but it isn't something that a person can just stop. It's something that needs to be understood. Self-injury is a serious issue, but help is available and it works. To learn more, head to the Child Mind Institute's Family Resource Center at childmind.org, where you'll find hundreds of articles and guides to help you support children who are struggling with mental health, behavior, or learning challenges. I'm Dr. David Friedlander, a clinical psychologist at the Child Mind Institute. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you find this video useful, please like and subscribe to the channel below.